now we're back into the pseudocode area. We're also into a new area in our local controls. So local controls are broken into the 3 controls and then parenting them together. We're going to put down here, parent controls together. Boom. Okay, so at this point, I have no idea what I have selected, but I do have my area up here, which is my inputs. So I'm eventually going to go from the root joint to joint 2 and the joint 3 and what I'm going to be moving my controls to. So this first area, what I'm really focusing on is on the root joint. The root joint. So we're creating a control. Let's do this actually inside of Maya. And you notice I did undo what I did before where I don't have the pad. This really doesn't have to be done after the pad. This control icon system can be done first. So I have that root selected, and I'm just literally going to say create. I'm going to clear my history and say create NURBS, and I'm going to create a circle. Now there's a whole bunch of things that goes in with creating a circle. Is that we have our normals, which direction we're going to face. So in this case, since X is facing down, I'd really want my normals to face 0, 1, 1, like that. And then if I snap this over, I'm going to use a constraint to snap it over. I'm actually going to select my joint, then my control, and I'm going to say parent constraint with my snap. I'll do that, do it the long way just to show it. So no offset. I hit apply and it snaps over. I don't need the constraint anymore. We also can see what size this control needs to be. It looks a little small, so maybe I need to increase the radius a little bit. So I could say 2 maybe. That's not too bad. Okay, I would fix it if I got to check it with the finger and everything. So I have my settings for my creating my control. I also know I have the constraint as I move it over. But I kind of skipped a step there. Let me undo and let me go back. Because when I'm still sitting here at this point, this is where I would want to change probably my radius and say it to be 2. I want to group it at this point. So right when we're at this point, it creates it and it groups it. So the control is going to be selected. I'm going to say group, and then I'm going to move my group over. Well, let's wait. Let's go and take a step back before we do that. My joint got, my control got a little messed up. So let's actually document what we got with our control because I'm jumping ahead too much. So we need to create a control. You know, its settings, the normal flag is going to be set with, I think it's actually normals. Let me create our control again. I'm going to use my little shelf button. It says normal, but in case it gives me an error, let's say it is normal. The normal is going to equal 1, 0, and 0 because it's n mixed up, and the radius is going to equal to 2. Okay, so we create a control, and we're going to have to group it right after we create it. Grouping control with the during the process. So in this case, in the case before where we were actually doing our pad, we're creating an empty group. In this case, we do want to actually group what we last created, which will be our control. And I could tell it, say, hey, group this item in our control icon. I'm going to show you that too. But we create a group. Then once our group is moved, then we're going to move group, which will move the control over to the target joint. We already know from our last one that we got more information on us. We're going to have to delete constraint when finished. After snapping. Okay. And we're pretty much there. So let's go and do this manually. So we'll create a control. Create a control. Put my normal. Actually, I already know now what my axis normal is because it says it right there. Well, it just still says normal without an S. Okay, radius 2. Group it. And then we will take the joint, then the group, constrain it. I have a button for that. There we go. We need to delete the constraint. Okay. And we're almost done. Now I just want to say, hey, I want to orient constraint the control to the joint. So the joint should follow the control. So it's control, driver driven. And then I'm going to say orient constraint, which I have a button for snapping on that. It doesn't snap. I didn't have to freeze transforms on the control because the group is going to have all the values on it. And the group's always going to have these values. So I don't have to worry about freezing transform at this point. So this is our whole process. So we're really close on here. I'm going to say orient constrain the joint to the control. So remember, driver driven. Which I can say it's going to be the control, then the joint. Okay, there's our pseudocode. Now, everything looks clean here. We'll still have to do some, and things might pop up here that we need. But this code here, is it any different from what we're going to do for control 2 and control 3? No, it's the same thing. So I can do this. I can copy my pseudocode in there. Eventually, I could literally delete this out and just copy the code over, but we'll get to that in a second. So there's our information, and we have our parenting, which is our last, and then we can come back and do renaming and all that type of stuff.